Welcome back, and thanks so much for staying with us. Let's now take you to this. President Cyril Ramaphosa has authorised the extension of the deployment of the South African National Defence Force, the SANDF, in the Democratic Republic of Congo to December. Ramaphosa said that 1,198 troops would remain on the ground until the 20th of December. This will come at a cost of over 805 million rand. Ramaphosa also informed the legislature of the extension of the deployment of 200 soldiers to SADC's maritime security strategy to counter the threat of piracy and other illegal activity along the Indian Ocean. Now, this mission has been extended to the end of March next year at a cost of 35 million rand. Now, to unpack this, we're now joined by Defence Analyst Dean Wingrin. Dean, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Just give us your reaction then to this particular extension of the SANDF, and if in fact it is an indication of the severity of the situation on the ground in the DRC that would then warrant such an extension.
Thank you very much. This is, in fact, doesn't come as a surprise and is to be expected. South Africa has been part of the MONUSCO, which is the UN mission in the DRC, for about 25 years now, since 1999. And every year, in terms of the relevant legislation, the President of South Africa must report to Parliament and advise of any external operations. So this is an annual extension. And in fact, the UN and the government of the DRC has come to an agreement for the withdrawal of the UN mission in the DRC. And the end date for that is the 20th of December. Hence, this extension isn't for a full year, i.e. from April to the end of March. It's end capped at 20th of December. And in fact, I expect the South African troops to be out of the MONUSCO mission in the DRC probably by July or so.
Dean, I mean, there's been a lot of questions, of course, about just the firepower of some of these troops that are at the forefront of this crisis, you know, from various vantage points. I mean, South Africa's ongoing peacekeeping efforts themselves in the country have come under harsh criticism here, especially as it relates to whether or not, you know, the South African troops are equipped for the mission, also around questions of safety of the soldiers. Just talk to us about your concerns here. I mean, are these criticisms justified?
Yes. We spoke about the UN mission in the DRC, which South Africa is part of, which is now scaling down. But concurrently with that, South Africa is still going to be in the Eastern DRC as part of the SADC mission in the DRC. That he will be together with Malawi and Tanzania. So that mission is in the process of scaling up. So we're still going to be in the DRC for the foreseeable future. And the problems of the funding of the Defence Force just carries on as it has been for the last decade or so, where the Defence Force is severely underfunded. And that means we cannot not only can we not replace our prime mission equipment, army vehicles, infantry fighting vehicles, Air Force helicopters and attack helicopters, transport helicopters, and so on, but we're also having problems with keeping enough troops and reserve force troops in order to rotate those troops that are on external deployments. And so we're operating with 30, 40-year-old vehicles in areas that they weren't designed for. Instead of the flat plains of southern Africa and in Angola, they're now having to operate in the muddy areas and mountainous areas of the DRC and of Central Africa, and at the same time without the vital air support that is required.
Now, like we said in our intro, Dean, it seems like also there are somewhat like two processes here, because we also know that there is that deployment of 200 soldiers to SADC's maritime security strategy to counter the threat of piracy along the Indian Ocean, of course, and other threats. Just talk to us through how this one is slightly different to what we've seen, with the other troops, especially those ones that have been redeployed up until December.
That's correct. At the same time, the President has notified Parliament of the extension of what we call Operation Copper. And this is South Africa's contribution to SADC as well in anti-piracy and combating illegal maritime activities off the southern and eastern coast of Africa, mainly the Mozambican Channel. And this has also been going on since about 2011, where we've had regular vessels patrolling, as well as Air Force aircraft, the Maritime Dakota, also conducting maritime patrols. Now, once again, the budget has impacted itself on these activities as well. For the last quite a while now, South Africa has had no maritime patrol aircraft operational. The Dakota, although they were upgraded, they're still 50-year-old airframes, and they just can't carry on anymore, particularly under the funding regime that's in place. And also there used to be regular naval patrols, frigates, and when they got too expensive, offshore patrol vessels, even the Navy replenishment vessel, SAS Drakensberg, has been active there. But I don't think there's been any patrols in the last 2 years. Again, because the vessels are requiring maintenance and upgrade, which the funds are extremely limited for that. And so hence the amounts that has been expected to be expended for this particular activity is only 35 million rand, and that's probably more salaries than anything else, because I'm just not sure what vessels are going to patrol. It might just be that the Navy's planning on sending a frigate to Russia in a month's time to attend a maritime parade in St. Petersburg. And that will be going up the east coast of Africa and then up through Suez and the Med towards Russia. And it could very well be that that frigate will, for that little leg through the Mozambican Channel, that might be Operation Comma Patrol.
Dean, very, very quickly, as a final question, I mean, you mentioned, of course, the MONUSCO mission, which is also coming to an end. Likely we'll see that coming to an end by June. So with that realization and the escalating amounts of money that is currently being used, 805 million and then 35 million, I mean, the question then remains, will we likely see another redeployment come December in as far as these troops are concerned?
Well, the SADC mission troops have already been authorized for until I think for the end of this year.
Yeah.
So the troops that come out from the UN mission will probably be rotated, and then we'll use those troops to make up the numbers to go into the SADC mission into the DRC.
All right, Dean, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate your analysis. Defence Analyst there, Dean Wingrin, of course. This story is also forming part of our question of the day when President Cyril Ramaphosa authorising the extension of the deployment of the South African National Defence Force to the DRC to December of this year.